What is up, hockey fans? Welcome to the Hockey News Playoff Frenzy Live, brought to you by Sticks.com. I am Emma Lingen, and I'm joined tonight by Andrew McInnes. We are talking about round one, game 6 between the Winnipeg Jets and the St. Louis Blues. Of course, the Blues even this one up, so they take the 5-2 win. The series is tied 3-3. It is heading back to Winnipeg for a game 7. We have lots to talk about there, and we will get to that. But first, wherever you are watching us, YouTube, X, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of the places, all of the platforms, we encourage you to send us your questions, your comments, your thoughts, hopes and dreams and concerns about this series, this game, anything else playoff related even. We would love to chat with you during this next 30 minutes or so. Of course, we also have our first game 7 of the playoffs tomorrow night between the Colorado Avalanche and the Dallas Stars. We're going to talk a little bit about that later too. But first, before we do any of that, do want to remind you that Playoff Frenzy Live is brought to you by Sticks.com. Why break the bank on sticks when you can get pro level composite sticks without the pro price tag at Sticks.com? That's STIX.com. Head there now and gear up. Okay, Andrew, we were just talking before we went live here. It's like the storylines kind of wrote themselves tonight, right? It was like, man, what are we going to talk about? I don't know. Maybe let's just roast Connor Hellebuck for 30 minutes. I don't know. Let's start there. What do we even make of Connor Hellebuck in this series for the Jets in St. Louis specifically?
Whenever we finish doing these shows, we always say, wow, that 30 minutes went by fast. Well, like you said, we could talk about Hellebuck for 30 minutes and it could go by in a breeze. There's good news and bad news for Winnipeg Jets fans. And the good news is they get to play the game 7 at home. The bad news is there is zero doubt in the mind of the St. Louis Blues players and coaching staff that they can put the puck in the net against Hellebuck. That is for sure. I mean, the road and home splits don't often affect goalies in this way. On the road, 3 games, 7.24 goals against, 7.58 save percentage. At home, 3 games, 2.33 goals against average, 8.79 save percentage. I mean, that is just a drastic difference. There is so much to look at when it comes to Hellebuck and his performances. I made the joke saying, I don't know if he just doesn't like the hotels they're staying at on the road. I don't know if it's just the last change. Of course, no Mark Scheifele does make a difference, but it's crazy. I mean, he's consistently breaking records now for, the first goalie. I think it's 7 straight playoff road games to give up 4 or more goals. There we go. So it is just unheard of to see these type of numbers. And I'm afraid to say it, Emma, but it most certainly takes away from regular season success.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who, he is a finalist for the Hart Trophy. He's a finalist for the Vezina Trophy, will almost certainly win the Vezina Trophy, if not both of those. He entered this game with 18 goals against in this series through the first 5 games. That's an 822 save percentage, 3.96 goals against average. He had already been pulled twice in this series. He has now been pulled 3 times in this series. Like you said, all 3 times have been on the road. I mean, I think that this time what Scott Arniel did with Hellebuck was maybe better than what they did in game 4, which was that didn't pull him in the middle of the period, waited until the end of the second period, pulled him then, and then started Eric Comrie for the third period, because I feel like at that point, what's it got to do to your confidence to get pulled 3 times in a series? And I just think I think he was kind of maybe Scott Arniel was helping him out a little bit by pulling him or by letting him finish the period and then just making the switch at the intermission, because man, he looks like a completely different goalie in the playoffs, and not in a good way. And it is, I mean, it is really remarkable. And you have to wonder how much of it is mental, how much of it is physical, how much of it is both. I mean, I think to your earlier point, there is absolutely no doubt in the minds of the Blues that they can put the puck in the back of the net against this guy. And yes, game 7 is going to be at home. That is promising somewhat for the Jets and Connor Hellebuck. But again, I don't think, if you're Winnipeg, I don't think you're feeling supremely confident heading into this game 7. But I mean, I don't know. I think it's clear, though, that Connor Hellebuck is still the guy in game 7. He's still your goaltender. So, do you think it was the right move to pull him for the third period of this game and then just kinda let him at least try to get his head right for game 7?
As you said, it was like the respectful way of doing it. It's the way that they had to go about doing it. They knew that the clock was expiring on the second period. It kind of felt to me, though, Emma, that wow, there's a whole period left of this game. Like that game could have ended, and I would have been like, okay, that makes sense. But the fact there was a whole period left, you put Comrie in there, and it's funny because you talk to some people, and they might say, well, based on what we saw in this game and other games in the series, Comrie's your guy. But at the end of the day, he's not your guy. They worked all season to earn home ice. I just read off those home versus road splits. Luckily for them, they've earned home ice throughout the regular season with their success. And you kind of save that confidence because I don't care what anybody says. And you talk to players on a daily basis throughout the season, they hear the crowd. I mean, they know what's going on. Some of them, especially the younger players in the world of digital media, they're on Twitter, they're on Instagram. Some of them have burner accounts, for heaven's sake. I mean, they are aware of what's being said about them. So I think that Hellebuck was in his head. And the good news, again, as we mentioned, they're going back home. One thing I like about this Winnipeg team that we've seen at home, they've proven that they can win playing two different styles of hockey. And I think that's really important. Game 1, they go ahead and win that one 5-3. Game 2, they say, you want to play low scoring? They win that one 2-1. And then, of course, in game 5, same thing. Their last victory was 5-3. So they've proven that they can play both styles of hockey. They can play low scoring. They can play high scoring. But to me, the answer is Hellebuck. But I'm going to ask you this. What does it do for the team? And it's a very bold decision. What would it do for the team if they said, you know what? It's Comrie time. We're not going to go to Hellebuck because, like you said, he's up for the Hart. He's going to win another Vezina. He's their guy. He's done well at home. I just feel like a coach has to have a really, really good reason for not going to their guy. And from the chair I'm sitting in, that only reason should have been if game 7 was on the road, because right now it's going back home. At the end of the day, the history tells us he's a way different character at home versus on the road.
Yeah, it does. I think you're right on the money there. I think with Hellebuck, you can't, for all of his regular season success, he has earned a certain amount of, I would say, like, of a grace period, of a let's give him time to figure this out. Now, I think a lot of people would argue that 6 games is probably a little too long of a grace period. But I think that now that, like you said, you are heading back home, he has proven to be successful there. There's no reason, unless barring an injury or something, something completely unrelated, that you don't go with your guy. And to your question, I think that going with the backup for the first time in a 7-game series in game 7, that's who you're starting. I mean, that just rocks the confidence of your entire team. And that's no disrespect to Eric Comrie, but it's just kind of the fact of the matter. And I just think the way that this whole series has gone down, you really, if you're Scott Arniel, you don't have a good enough reason not to go with Hellebuck in game 7, although I'm sure there are probably plenty of Jets fans who may disagree with that right about now.
Yeah.
But again, if you are just joining us, this is the Hockey News Playoff Frenzy Live. We are brought to you by Sticks.com, and we would love to answer your questions and see your comments. We are talking about Winnipeg Jets losing 5-2 to the St. Louis Blues and forcing a game 7. So we are talking about it now. Would love to hear from you. Let's see. We've got a comment here. In terms of goals saved above or below expected, Hellebuck's playoff rate is worse than the regular season number of Philip Grubauer and Alexander Georgiev. That's putting it into perspective, I think.
That is saying
Playoff
something.
yeah, playoff Hellebuck, not the same as regular season Hellebuck. Not even in the same stratosphere, it doesn't seem like. Um, and we've kind of joked about this is going to be a roast of Connor Hellebuck, and it could be, and it has been, but we do have other things to talk about here. I think now, and this is a good question. Before we do move on from the Hellebuck talk, this is a good question. If the Jets do get past the Blues, how much faith do you have, Andrew, that Hellebuck is suddenly just gonna turn it around and be regular season Hellebuck in the second round?
Zero. Zero faith. I literally think, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I think it is so important that they have home ice right now. I think that the fact that they earned that during the regular season, they had the October, November, December run they had. That's what you play for during the regular season. We saw it in the Atlantic, the division I follow the most, where Florida said, "We're a great team. We just want to get healthy. We'll take third place in the division." It's almost like they were just done trying to compete for the spot. Certain teams like Winnipeg, they needed it. And I'll tell you what, I can't believe I did this, but I picked LA over Edmonton because of home ice. So the way I look at it, game 5 in the LA at Edmonton series, that was the game 7 for LA because they needed to do exactly what's going on right now in the Winnipeg series. That's kind of how I thought it would go. I thought that, and of course, LA was leading in both game 3 and 4 in Edmonton. But at the end of the day, for these home teams, I think a lot of the times their game 7s are game 5. You protect home ice. If the other team wins game 7, you say, hey, I'll see you back at home. I earned the right to be there. But do I think Hellebuck is going to turn into a different goalie in the next series? Not on the road. I think it's going to be the same guy. At home, he will be who he is. So, I know it sounds like it's easy for me to say, and maybe I'm being the Monday morning quarterback by just looking at what we just saw, but that's how it is sometimes when you're on a post-game show and you're reacting to it. Nothing that I've seen has really made me think it'll be any different. So, and you always ask, is the defense really playing a role? And a lot of the time, if anybody watches any of the content that I do, you'd think I was a goaltender growing up because I defend goalies like it's my second job. But can we really defend him here? I can't really defend him tonight.
Yeah, listen, I cover the Nashville Predators, and I've been doing that all season with UC Soros, trying to be like, hey, look, the defense in front of him is playing a big role here. But with Hellebuck, with some of these, it's like, man, I was watching the game. I'm like, is his glove side just broken? Like, it just, I mean, these
There's a
were
hole.
easy. Yeah, it just seems like they're like, did he short circuit or something? Because it seems like a lot of these were pucks he should easily stop, would easily stop if it was the regular season and or if he was at home, apparently. So it's just been just a conundrum for Winnipeg in this series. But give credit to the Blues as well. This is not all about, oh, Hellebuck is terrible. I mean, the Blues have made this a competitive series as well. They did have that what I thought was a really undisciplined slashing penalty by Nathan Walker in the second period. Of course, Cole Perfetti and the Winnipeg power play made them pay for it, and they did score a goal there. But then Walker ends up getting the last laugh because he scored the first in what would turn out to be a 4-goal onslaught for the Blues in the second period. 4 goals in just over 5 minutes. It was Walker, Braden Shen, Cam Fowler, Alexei Toropchenko. I mean, it was kind of a dumpster fire from there for Winnipeg. And what I will say though, you mentioned with Winnipeg, they were missing Mark Scheifele. He was injured in game 5. They did, however, get back Nikolai Ehlers for the first time since April 12th. He brings speed and scoring to that lineup. He had 63 points in 69 games in the regular season. How much of a boost do you think he it's hard to say after a game like this one, but let's just say in theory could bring to their transition game in particular, especially with Scheifele out of the lineup? I mean, again, hard to see that he made a huge impact in this game, but how much do you think, if Winnipeg is able to make it past the Blues in game 7, how much of an impact is Ehlers going to have for this team the rest of the way?
He's going to have a huge impact. I think a lot of it with Nikolai Ehlers comes down to puck possession. He loves to hold on to it. He's not afraid to kind of carry it, maintain possession, wait till his teammates can catch up. I followed him all the way through his junior career, and I watched him grow as a player, and the patience that he kind of developed into the NHL and what he has now, the maturity he has. I think he makes everybody around him better. He certainly isn't just a goal scorer. He's a playmaker as well, using that speed, keeping his head up and finding his teammates. But, anybody that ever doubted Kyle Connor can just put that to bed, because whatever happens to Winnipeg next year, the year after that, Kyle Connor is a fantastic player. And let's not forget, he was up in the press box for the Four Nations final, which is hard to believe, the fact that he didn't play in that game. But Kyle Connor's been great, but the depth hasn't exactly been there for Winnipeg. And that's what teams like Winnipeg are known for, having some guys that you might not be expecting to score, put up some goals on a certain night. One thing I was kind of interested when I look at 58.5%, that was the face-off percentage, win percentage for Winnipeg tonight. And so when you look at that and you think about the fact that they get the second change, or the first change, excuse me, so they have the disadvantage there. St. Louis gets the matchups of their choice, and yet Winnipeg dominates so much in the face-off dot. They have more hits. They have more puck possession. Again, we didn't want to make it a 30-minute roast of Hellebuck, but when I look at numbers, and this is the funny thing, it seemed to me like Winnipeg certainly had a chance in this game. So when you ask me about Ehlers and some of these guys, a guy like Velarde as well, I think maintaining puck possession, being back at home will certainly help them. But I'm very worried that if their top 3 players don't have a fantastic game at home, the secondary contributors aren't really there for this Winnipeg team. I even think about the Maple Leafs. Like this year, I think they had 3 goal scorers that were defensemen. And I think last year in round 1, they had 1 goal from a defenseman. Sometimes you just need those random guys to score. And if that happens, it kind of frees things up for the other players.
Yeah, sometimes you just need Max Pacioretty to score in overtime, and or Max Domi. You need those guys sometimes too. And to your point, it kind of felt like Winnipeg was a team full of those guys. Like, not to say that they didn't have any, obviously top line talent. They have the Scheifeles and the Connors and the Ehlers types, but they don't have a Connor McDavid. They don't have a Nathan McKinnon that you're going to rely upon to drive your entire offense. And so teams like Winnipeg, teams like Dallas, I would say kind of similar, like they're known for their scoring depth. And to your point, we just haven't really seen it that much in this series yet. Again, this is the Hockey News Playoff Frenzy Live. If you are just joining us now, welcome. I am Emma Lingen. I am talking with Andrew McInnes about Blues Jets Game 6, and we are going to a Game 7. Would love to hear your comments, your thoughts, rants, raves, whatever you're feeling tonight. We would love to process that with you. So hit us with the comments. You could get a chance to get featured here and potentially a chance to win a free stick or some free swag from our good friends at Stix.com. All right, Andrew, we're talking about all of the goals that were scored and the goalie who let them in. I'm trying not to say his name right now just because, we've been a little mean to him already, but moving on to another part of this game, another element of this game that I found very interesting. was in the third period. And normally, I don't know. Well, I will just ask you, what did you think of the fireworks in the third period? I mean, we had Jim Montgomery jumping over the benches and yelling at people. We had the Shen brothers chirping at each other. I mean, what in the world? I feel like there was also so much. I think the game all told had 60 total penalty minutes. I will say though, if I had to nitpick, not that it matters at this point because St. Louis did win 5-2. Um, St. Louis had 6 power play opportunities and did not score on any of them.
That's scary.
And that is scary. That on one hand, that's you're really good at 5-on-5, but on the other hand, it's a little like I feel like the best teams are the ones who capitalize on those opportunities. And to Winnipeg's credit, they did score twice on the power play. So it's a little bit like, okay, is that even a factor? Does it kind of cancel out because of how lopsided the score was to begin with? I mean, what are your thoughts of all the extracurriculars that happened in the third period?
Like I said, after the second period was over, you could have told me that was the game, and I would have said, all right, cool, we'll see you in game 7. I think that Winnipeg, over the first 5 to 6 minutes of the third period, were like, all right, let's see what we can do here. Let's see what we can do. Maybe build some momentum, get a quick one, and we can go from there. Once that doesn't happen, you're pretty much in momentum mode, as I like to call it. It's just momentum for the next game. Stir things up, make it physical. You look up at the clock and you see 14 minutes left. I've got 14 minutes to absolutely raise hell. And Montgomery would love to have been able to just head back to the locker room and say, let's get back on a plane and let's go. It's usually the losing team that goes together on the bench and they say, I don't want any of you guys to act like this game is over. Whether you're trying to score, whether you're mixing it up, whether you're dumping it into the goalie and snowing them, whatever you have to do to still remain in this game, because whether people believe it or not, the way you perform sometimes in a game 6 third period can translate to a first period of a game 7. You need to turn that momentum into a different way. And I just wanted to mention, and again, this is not a negative thing towards Hellebuyck. I said his name. This is a positive towards Binnington. The expected goals in all situations, not 5-on-5, all situations. You mentioned all the power plays. 4.16 Jets, 3.06 Blues. So according to this site that I'm looking at right now, expected goals favored Winnipeg to win 4-3. Obviously, you can't score 4.16 goals, but we all know that. So looking at this, Binnington deserves credit because all we're going to see on social media, Hellebuyck had a bad game. This team didn't play well defensively. Meanwhile, you have one goalie, cool, calm, and collected, that's playing his game and quietly doing what he does. So I think that I saw a lot of the Jets players not only getting on each other's nerves, trying to get on Binnington's nerves as well.
Oh yeah, and he's a guy who's got a bit of a reputation for maybe being a little sensitive to that. So I think that they're trying to get under his skin, of course. But I think the big storyline here, and you kind of alluded to it earlier, but it's been how Hellebuyck and Binnington, of course, this is the goalie rematch from the Four Nations final. And these two goalies, it just seems like have taken completely opposite trajectories. Since it seems like Binnington unlocked something at the Four Nations face-off. I mean, you could not get anything past him. And Hellebuyck was fine. I think we have just become so accustomed to seeing this superhuman version of Connor Hellebuyck that when he is just a mere mortal, we're like, oh my gosh, he's struggling. Now, in this game, he really did struggle. Interesting question we got here, Andrew. Do you think Binnington is nervous at all?
I think I know what this, I really hope Journalism John is referencing the interview that I know. And if it is, his answer to the media was, do I look nervous? And then they said, no, you don't look nervous. And he goes, there you go. There's my answer. That was from like a handful of years ago. and he gave that smug look like, do I look nervous? And I love those little media bites. So John, there we go. There's that winky face in the chat. He knows. I knew what he was talking about there, and I don't think he looks nervous out there. He's calm. And that's the funny thing about trying to get on his nerves is some goalies get fired up by that. They want to get in the mix. Marc-Andre Fleury is a guy that loves yapping to the other team. He needs to be engaged. So we'll see. But again, I think it's really important to go out there and get the first goal in game 7 for them to kind of establish possession, keep the puck away from their own D zone. The scariest part sometimes can be this year in the postseason, Emma, a lot of times the team with the fewest amount of shots has been the team that's come out on top. And of course, don't get me wrong, I understand a losing team chases the game, so they're firing shots rapid fire, and I get that. But it is kind of interesting that a goalie that's kind of standing alone in their crease, watching play at the other end of the rink, and then they face their first shot in 5 minutes, it can be difficult sometimes to be that goalie.
It can. It absolutely can. And I will point out in this game in particular, the Winnipeg Jets put a whopping total of 2 shots on goal in the first period. Those, to your point, that's doesn't make it easy for Binnington. I mean, it's harder to stay focused back there when you've only seen 2 shots in 20 minutes. So definitely. And now, of course, Winnipeg came out and kicked it up a notch in the second period, but still, I mean, it says a lot, I think, about the goaltending in this game. Like you said, it's good to give Binnington his flowers. He deserves them. It's not just that Hellebuck was bad. Binnington was also very good. So we are going to acknowledge that as well. Again, yes, have to do it. Again, if you are just joining us, this is the Hockey News Playoff Frenzy Live. Emma Lingen, Andrew McGinnis talking about the Jets and the Blues. Before we wrap up our conversation about this team or this game in this series, rather, Andrew, any kind of final thoughts heading into game 7? Because I do want to touch on our other game 7 that we have tomorrow between Dallas and Colorado. But for Winnipeg and St. Louis, any kind of final parting thoughts? Anyone other than the Winnipeg goaltender who shall not be named, who maybe needs to step up a little bit for either team in game 7 to really make a difference, do you think?
There's a line, I think, overall for Winnipeg that needs to be successful. But when I say successful, not just goal scoring wise, just kind of having very eventful shifts, whether it's, maintaining possession, getting pucks deep, forechecking hard, making life difficult, laying the body. Mason Appleton, Morgan Barron, and Nino Niederreiter. 3 big bodies, 3 guys that can go out there and get the Winnipeg whiteout on their feet, making noise behind the team, and then send out your top 2 lines. Those guys get in the mix, and those guys put the puck in the net. I think that you can contribute to your team's success in different ways besides just scoring. And I think Appleton, I think Barron, and Niederreiter have to play a huge factor in game 7. You get a goal from that line, you get goal scoring chances from that line, and that makes a big difference. So I think that'll be huge for them. And as far as St. Louis goes, when you go on the road, your big guns have to be your big guns. A lot of times I talk about depth being important, but at the end of the day for the Blues, I think they need their top players to step up and be their top players. One guy who we didn't mention, who I've just been absolutely shocked by in this series, is Cam Fowler. I mean, if you put his numbers up and then you put Cale Makar's numbers up for this year, I bet you everybody in the world, if you didn't show their names, would say that stat over there is Cale Makar's number, and those stats over there are Cam Fowler's numbers. Fowler's having a great playoffs. He had a point again tonight. He's been great. And again, the blue liners make a huge difference. But if they're going to win game 7, the top guys have to show up. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Blues can't come into this one too confident after a big win.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not on the road. And I think, Cam Fowler's been great. I mean, but to your point, you need your big guys to step up. You can't necessarily, going into a game 7, do or die, you can't bank on Philip Broberg scoring from the blue line. That's just, it's great when it happens, but that's not that shouldn't be your strategy to win game 7. Moving on, we do have another game 7, our first game 7 of the playoffs happening tomorrow night between the Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche. And I mean, this series, my goodness, it has been kind of, I would say, as advertised. I mean, this is one of those series that it is a conference final level matchup, to the point where, you're going into this series thinking it is unfair that one of these teams is not going to make it past the first round because they're just so talented. I mean, I think a sort of a microcosm of the Central Division. It's just a gauntlet. I mean, this series, first the Avalanche led 1-0. Then the Stars took a 2-1 lead. Then the Avs tied it 2-2. The Stars took a 3-2 lead. Avs tied it again in game 6 last night with a 7-4 win. And, Dallas is the higher seed, and so they will get home ice in game 7. But, they are kind of playing the underdog due to the injuries that they've had. Obviously, Jason Robertson, Miro Heiskanen. Looking at this series, I mean, do you have any kind of gut feeling, I mean, you're the betting guy, so I want to know, like, who would you pick in game 7, because I truly don't know.
So Colorado are the favorites in this game. They are road favorites, minus 140 for people familiar with betting odds. So it is interesting that at home they were massive favorites. They go on the road, not nearly as big favorites. But when I look at this one, you look at history. Pete DeBoer, 8-0 career game 7s. Jared Bednar, 0-3. So you look at those numbers and you think, wow, that kind of means something. Coaches, I respect coaches' history. I respect coaches' stats, and I look at that. But then I also want to take a look at, okay, if Colorado's being given this favorited spot against the number 3 team overall in the league, let's take a look at how the Avalanche have performed in Dallas. And the first 2 games of the series, game 1 finishes 5-1 Colorado. Game 2, as we all recall, Colorado had the lead for the bulk of that game. Dallas ties it up late. It goes to overtime and finishes 4-3 for the Stars. So one thing I like about this one is that I'm not really concerned about home ice. I kept on preaching about how in certain series, like the Winnipeg one, like Carolina's series, and unfortunately I thought, and I was wrong about the LA one, but I don't think home ice matters. I think we'll see the superstars play well, and I think that the depth actually is in favor of the Avalanche here. Nichushkin is the gamer. If you ask me one guy that has to be a factor tomorrow night, and it would be Valerie Nichushkin, that second line player, Arturi Lehkonen. If you guys can score without McKinnon, then it makes a big difference. And I think when you're looking at this Avalanche team, that's the big difference, is if they can have success and have some goals created without it being McKinnon, without it being Natchez, it makes a really big difference. But Ottinger is probably going to be the difference maker for the Dallas Stars. I think Blackwood had kind of an off game in the previous game, and they still won. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? We'll find out tomorrow.
Well, to your point, Val Nichushkin, I mean, he scored twice for them yesterday, so that still, if he's getting hot at the right time, that's great for Colorado. Bad news for Dallas, but either way, like you said, Pete DeBoer, undefeated in game 7s. I mean, those kinds of stats are almost the ones that make me nervous. I'm like, oh god, just it's got to end at some point, right? Like those are the ones that make me nervous. But I do think that regardless, this is going to be a fantastic game to end a fantastic series. And regardless, kudos to Dallas, because I think a lot of people had written them off heading into this series just for the injuries that I mentioned and the fact that they finished on a 7-game losing streak to end the season. I mean, that's not great. So I think
That's tough.
It's tough. I think credit to them for sure for making this the competitive series that I think we all thought it would be. And then, of course, it's those 2 teams, and then it's the Jets and the Blues in both going to game 7s. It's all the Central Division. I'm telling y'all, it's a gauntlet, seriously. So take it from someone who covers the Nashville Predators. But even Minnesota, they made it competitive with Vegas there as well. So definitely lots of excitement here, lots going on. We appreciate you all staying up with us, especially Andrew. Andrew, please tell everyone what time it is where you are right now.
It is a whopping 12:43 a.m. where I am right now. So I was wondering, I was like, are we still going live tonight? And I'm like, oh wait, you're the only one on this weird time zone. So of course we're still going live tonight.
Well, we thank you for staying awake and going live with us tonight. We thank all of you out there who have tuned in to watch us, especially those who are sending us your comments and questions. We love hearing from you. Again, this is the Hockey News Playoff Frenzy Live. Of course, we just wrapped up talking about Jets and Blues headed to a Game 7 on Sunday. I am Emma Lingen. This is Andrew McInnes. We are going to be here every single night during the playoffs live. So definitely want to keep checking back and keep tuning in. We are going to be back here live tomorrow night, recapping whatever happens in Game 7 of the Colorado Avalanche and the Dallas Stars. It's going to be a good one, so don't miss it. Thank you all again for tuning in. Thanks again to our friends at Sticks.com. We will see you tomorrow.